first half of the day on February 27th, we're going to focus on leading a five-star team. Leading a five-star team. So what does that mean? When you think of world-class organizations, whether you think of Amazons or the Ritzes or the Disneys, you think of five stars. All right. To lead a five-star team in that particular program, we're gonna talk about expectations and the power of expectations and what that means. And I'll give you an example. Give you an example. When we when my family when my wife and I moved to the DC area over 20 years ago, there were two McDonald's close to where we lived. There was a McDonald's close to our house, and there was another one maybe 10 minutes maybe further down the street, but they're on the same street. When we walk into the McDonald's closest to where we lived, if the staff was outside, they would stop what they were doing. They would open the door for you. They would greet you. They would bring you in. They would ask you what you're having. They would remember what you ordered if you were there previously. And I'm talking like real impressive. Now, I am a service nerd. I love to see people operating on that level and treating people well, especially people you don't know. So because I'm nosy, whenever you see excellence, you should always interrogate it. Always interrogate it. I decided to go and ask the manager, how do you get your team to be like this all the time? Because if it's not all the time, if it's not consistent, if it's not systematic, then it's a fluke. It has to be all the time. Anybody can be exceptional when they're in a good mood, but you can't build an organization, you can't build a culture on hoping that people are in a good mood. So I decided to ask the lady, how do you get the team to be like this all the time? She said, well, I believe in my team. I work alongside them. I don't tolerate mediocrity. I push them. These are all things you all know. You're part of Rempex, you know all this because Mike preaches that every day. It's like 101, leadership 101. Now you go to the other McDonald's down the street, the other McDonald's, same street. You walk into that McDonald's and the staff looks like they generally do not like people. Like human beings bother them. And they're looking like, what do you, have you ever walked into a place like that? You walk into a place and it looks like everybody there doesn't like people. Like they are annoyed that they even have to get up to come to work. That was that McDonald's. I decided to ask the manager, because I happen to know who it was. I asked the manager, what is it with your team? They always seem to be so disgruntled, so disengaged. They look angry, actually. They look like they want to be anywhere other than here. They seem more engaged talking to each other than talking to the customer. Why is that? We just can't find good people. We just can't find people in this area. You can't find good people in this area. I mean, look at the demographics of the area. And then he said, oh, and then all these young people who work, these young people don't work. And this younger generation, they don't, these millennials and Generation Z and Y. He blamed the area, the demographics, socioeconomic status. He blamed people's generations. He blamed everything other than himself. Now, watch this. You have two McDonald's on the same street. Two McDonald's means it's the same organization. Same organization. That's like an experiment. You have the same organization with the same standards, the same policies on the same street, which means they're hiring from the same what? They're hiring from the same pool. So the real difference is not the area, it's the leader, but specifically the expectations of the leader. I'll say that again. The real difference between those two McDonald's, the real difference between world-class organizations and ones who are just kind of doing the bare minimum, the real difference between Baldrige winning organizations, because we have a lot of clients who have won Baldrige Awards in my organization. So I've worked with them, I've worked with them, I've worked in them. The difference between world-class and, I don't want to say no class, it kind of sounds bad, world-class and not so crispy, are the expectations of the leader. It's not just the expectations, but the consistently communicated expectations of the leader. I gotta put those two adjectives in there. Well, the adverb and adjective. The consistently communicated expectations. Because you can say, well, I communicated the expectations in our new employee orientation 10 years ago. Well, the once a year when we do our all staff general session, I communicate the expectations. Oh, no. Once a year when we do the employee performance appraisals, we communicate expectations. If you expect your team to perform at a high level every day, then you got to talk about them performing at a high level every day. Because when it comes to leading a five-star team, this we're gonna all this we're talking about is covered in the first half of the day. We are talking about expectations, which ties into standards versus suggestions. A standard is what you stand for. You stand for. It's a non-negotiable. If a standard can be negotiable, then it's not a standard. It's a suggestion. If you measure it, if you have a way to measure it, it must be a standard. If it's on your agenda when you have your meetings, oh, it must be a standard. If you audit, if you audit it, it must be a standard. See, with the absence of those things, it's the absence of measurement, the absence of accountability, and the absence of the leader themselves modeling it. It's just a suggestion. And I think it's immoral, it's unethical to hold someone accountable for not following suggestions.